Most people think aging is just a slow decline, a little less strength, a little more fatigue. They say, that's just getting old. But that's not entirely true. What we're really talking about is sarcopenia, a condition where your muscles literally waste away with age. And here's the thing, it doesn't just steal your strength, it steals your independence, your metabolism, and eventually your life. Sarcopenia is often referred to as the silent epidemic of aging, and for good reason. Unlike heart disease or diabetes, which usually come with clear symptoms and a firm diagnosis, sarcopenia creeps in slowly, almost imperceptibly. One day you're walking up the stairs without thinking, and then gradually you start feeling winded. Grocery bags feel heavier. Getting up from a chair takes more effort. It's subtle, but it's progressive, and it's dangerous. By the time most people notice it, a significant amount of muscle mass has already been lost, and with it, their strength, stability, and resilience. After the age of 65, the rate at which we lose muscle accelerates, and unless we're actively fighting it, sarcopenia becomes an inevitable part of our biological timeline. What makes sarcopenia especially insidious is how misunderstood it is. Many believe it's just a natural part of aging, a harmless byproduct of getting older. But the truth is far more alarming. Sarcopenia is not just about looking frail or feeling a bit weaker. It's a direct contributor to falls, fractures, metabolic dysfunction, insulin resistance, decreased immunity, and ultimately mortality. The decline in muscle mass affects not just your biceps or your quadriceps, it impacts vital systems in your body that regulate everything from blood sugar to inflammation. Muscle isn't just for movement, it's metabolically active tissue that plays a key role in overall health. Losing it compromises your ability to live independently, your capacity to recover from illness, and your overall quality of life. Most people begin losing muscle mass at a slow rate starting in their 30s or 40s, but the process accelerates significantly after age 65. Research shows that adults can lose between 1% to 2% of muscle mass per year past this age, and even more concerning, they can lose strength at an even faster rate. This phenomenon is known as dynapenia, the loss of muscular strength, which often outpaces muscle atrophy itself. In other words, it's not just the volume of muscle you lose, but how functional and powerful that muscle remains. As this strength diminishes, so too does your stability, your balance, and your physical confidence. A simple misstep becomes a potential hip fracture. A few days in bed with the flu can lead to weeks of lost mobility. There's also a vicious feedback loop that forms. As sarcopenia progresses, movement becomes more difficult. As a result, people move less, which further accelerates muscle loss. Reduced physical activity leads to insulin resistance, increased fat accumulation, especially visceral fat, and heightened inflammation, all of which further suppress muscle protein synthesis. This isn't just a physical spiral, it's a metabolic one. The body's ability to build and maintain muscle becomes blunted, and its capacity to bounce back diminishes with each passing year. But perhaps one of the most overlooked aspects of sarcopenia is its emotional toll. Muscle is deeply tied to autonomy. The ability to walk, to lift, to carry, to move without assistance, these are foundational to our sense of self. As that capacity diminishes, so too does our confidence. Many individuals over 65 begin to limit their activities out of fear of falling, fear of getting hurt, fear of not being able to keep up. This restriction further isolates them from social engagement, from exercise, from purposeful living. In this way, sarcopenia doesn't just shrink the body, it shrinks life. Another key reason sarcopenia flies under the radar is because there is no clear moment of diagnosis. You don't go to your doctor and get a sarcopenia score that suddenly alarms you into action. By the time you realize it's happening, the loss is already substantial. Most traditional blood tests or wellness checkups won't flag it unless they specifically assess muscle strength or body composition. And unfortunately, many older adults aren't educated about what signs to watch for until they've already reached a point of frailty. It becomes something they notice only in hindsight, when daily tasks start to feel harder and when injuries take longer to recover from. This is what makes sarcopenia so dangerous. It's a slow, silent erosion of vitality. Not painful, not dramatic, just steady and unforgiving. It's the kind of biological decay that doesn't sound any alarms until it's too late to rebuild easily. And because it's not commonly discussed in mainstream health conversations, especially not as a reversible or preventable condition, many people accept it as a natural and unchangeable part of growing older. They adjust to their new limitations instead of questioning whether those limitations are necessary. But the reality is that sarcopenia isn't just age-related, it's lifestyle-related. Yes, aging plays a role, but it's our habits, what we eat, how we move, how we train that determine how much muscle we retain or lose. Muscle is incredibly adaptable. Even in your 70s and 80s, you can still build it, preserve it, and use it to protect yourself. But to do that, you have to understand what you're up against. And it starts with recognizing that sarcopenia is not just a symptom of old age. It's a condition with real consequences, and it's happening faster than most people think. Muscle is the currency of longevity. It's not just a component of physical fitness, it's a vital organ system, as critical as your hair or liver, and it plays a central role in how well you age. Yet, most people don't think of it that way. When they imagine growing old, they focus on wrinkles, memory, or maybe bone density. But if you're serious about living longer and living better, the single most protective tissue in your body is muscle. It's not about vanity. It's not about looking good in your 60s or 70s. It's about staying functional, independent, and metabolically resilient into your 80s, 90s, and beyond. Muscle mass is directly linked to survival, especially in older adults. Numerous studies show that higher muscle mass correlates with lower all-cause mortality. That means the more muscle you have as you age, the lower your risk of dying from virtually any cause, whether it's cardiovascular disease, cancer, or complications from surgery or falls. This is because muscle does far more than just power movement. It acts as a reservoir of amino acids during times of stress or illness, supports your immune system, and regulates critical metabolic processes including insulin sensitivity and glucose uptake. In short, it's a protective system you carry with you at all times, and the stronger that system is, the better your chances of surviving physical and metabolic stressors. When we talk about longevity, most people are really talking about health span, the number of years you can live disease-free and functional without dependency or disability. Muscle is the foundation of that health span. It's what lets you get off the floor without assistance, climb stairs without gasping, carry groceries without struggling, and walk through your life with confidence and control. Without muscle, even the simplest actions become challenging. Independence is lost not in a moment, but over time through the gradual erosion of strength, balance, and endurance. And the root of that erosion is almost always the slow, steady loss of muscle. What most people don't realize is how muscle intersects with every other domain of health. Take insulin resistance, for example. Skeletal muscle is the largest site of glucose disposal in the body. When you lose muscle, your capacity to manage blood sugar declines. This can increase your risk of type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and chronic inflammation. Conversely, maintaining or building muscle improves insulin sensitivity, lowers fasting glucose, and supports overall metabolic health. It is one of the most powerful ways to keep your body functioning like it's decades younger than the calendar says. Muscle also plays a major role in immune function. During times of physical trauma, infection, or illness, the body breaks down muscle protein to supply amino acids for immune cells, wound healing, and the synthesis of critical proteins. If you don't have enough muscle mass, your body has less to draw on in times of crisis. That's why people with higher lean mass tend to recover faster from surgeries, infections, or hospitalizations. In many cases, it's not the illness itself that poses the greatest risk, it's the body's diminished capacity to respond and rebound. Muscle is your emergency energy and repair bank. Without sufficient reserves, recovery becomes compromised. There's also an overlooked hormonal component to muscle. Muscle tissue is a major endocrine organ. It secretes myokines, which are signaling molecules that influence inflammation, fat metabolism, brain health, and bone density. In this way, muscle doesn't just support movement, it actively communicates and regulates other systems in the body. As you build and maintain muscle, you're not just improving strength, you're positively affecting your brain, your cardiovascular system, your bones, and even your mood. Muscle is biologically active, and the more you preserve it, the more those protective benefits cascade throughout your physiology. Another point to consider is the concept of physiological reserve. This is your body's capacity to handle stress, whether that's physical exertion, injury, or illness. People with more muscle have greater reserve. They can fall and get back up. They can catch the flu and recover faster. They can bounce back from a surgery or a hospital stay with less risk of complications. This resilience is critical as you age because health challenges become more frequent and the body's ability to recover becomes more precious. Muscle is your reserve tank, and if it's empty, even minor health setbacks can become major. Despite all of this, muscle remains one of the most underappreciated markers of aging well. Traditional medicine doesn't measure it the way it does cholesterol or blood pressure, but its influence is arguably just as important. It's not just a side effect of being active, it's a biological priority that determines how long and how well you live. And unlike genetics or past medical history, muscle is modifiable. You can build it, you can preserve it, you can protect it, but only if you recognize its value, because at the end of the day, muscle isn't optional, it's essential. It's the physical savings account that gives you freedom, security, and strength for the road ahead. And without it, longevity becomes less about living fully and more about simply surviving. Protein timing and quality matter more than ever after age 65, because the body's ability to synthesize muscle in response to dietary protein becomes less efficient with age. This phenomenon is called anabolic resistance. It means that the same amount of protein that once triggered muscle growth in your 30s or 40s is no longer enough to get the job done in your 60s or 70s. As a result, older adults need not only more protein overall, but they also need to be much more intentional about when they consume it and what kind of protein they're consuming. Anabolic resistance doesn't mean muscle growth is impossible after 65, it just means the stimulus needs to be stronger. The body needs a louder signal to say, build muscle now. That louder signal comes from consuming high-quality, leucine-rich protein in appropriate doses, distributed evenly throughout the day. Instead of eating the traditional pattern of light breakfasts, moderate lunches, and protein-heavy dinners, older adults benefit far more from a consistent, high-protein intake at every meal, starting with breakfast. Most older adults consume the majority of their daily protein at dinner, leaving breakfast and lunch relatively protein deficient. This uneven distribution is a major problem. Muscle protein synthesis is a process that operates in pulses. It needs regular stimulation to remain active. When you go most of the day without enough protein, you're missing multiple opportunities to stimulate that process. That's like skipping workouts and expecting results. The body thrives on rhythm and frequency, and protein is no exception. Research shows that consuming 25 to 30 grams of high-quality protein at each meal is far more effective for maintaining muscle than consuming one large dose in the evening. The quality of the protein also matters, and not all protein sources are created equal. High-quality proteins are those that contain all 9 essential amino acids, especially leucine, the key amino acid responsible for initiating the muscle-building process through the mTOR signaling pathway. Animal-based proteins such as whey, eggs, fish, and poultry are particularly effective because they are rich in leucine and have high bioavailability, meaning the body can digest and absorb them efficiently. For older adults, whey protein in particular has been studied extensively and shown to be highly effective in overcoming anabolic resistance due to its fast digestion and high leucine content. Plant-based proteins can be part of the diet, but they are often lower in leucine and other essential amino acids. They also tend to be less bioavailable due to the presence of fiber and anti-nutrients that interfere with absorption. That doesn't mean they should be avoided, it just means they need to be strategically combined and possibly supplemented with specific amino acids to be as effective as their animal-based counterparts in triggering muscle protein synthesis. This becomes even more important if the individual is vegetarian or vegan, as maintaining muscle mass with a plant-based approach after 65 requires more precise planning. Another important factor is meal timing relative to activity. Consuming protein shortly after resistance training provides a powerful synergistic effect that enhances muscle growth and recovery. The post-exercise window is when the body is primed to absorb and utilize amino acids for repair and growth. For older adults who engage in strength training, which they absolutely should, this timing becomes a vital opportunity. A high-protein meal or shake within an hour of exercise can significantly amplify the muscle-building response, helping to counteract the effects of anabolic resistance and preserve lean mass. In addition to whole meals, strategically using protein supplements can be highly beneficial for older adults who struggle with appetite, chewing, digestion, or meal prep. Whey protein powders, leucine-enhanced drinks, or ready-to-mix protein blends can fill in the nutritional gaps and ensure that total daily protein intake remains adequate. This isn't about replacing meals, but about supporting consistent protein distribution and quality, especially in the morning or post-workout when whole food intake may be less practical. These supplements can also help when illness, stress, or travel disrupt normal eating patterns, times when muscle loss can accelerate rapidly in older individuals. The daily protein target for older adults aiming to preserve or build muscle is generally higher than the outdated RDI of 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. Current evidence suggests that 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram is more appropriate, with some experts recommending even more for individuals actively strength training or recovering from illness. Hitting this target through well-timed, high-quality protein sources is not just about muscle, it's about supporting immune function, preventing frailty, maintaining metabolic health, and enhancing recovery. It's a form of daily medicine delivered through nutrition that plays a foundational role in how the body ages. Unfortunately, many older adults fall well short of these optimal protein levels, often due to outdated dietary advice, reduced appetite, or simply not realizing how important it is. Protein needs don't decrease with age, they increase. Your body is fighting harder to maintain muscle, and you need to give it every possible advantage. Waiting until you're already losing strength to make changes is too late. By then, the body is in a reactive mode, not a preventive one. That's why strategic protein timing and quality isn't a fringe idea, it's a fundamental strategy for anyone over 65 who wants to maintain their physical independence, overall resilience. Leucine is the trigger, the amino acid that flips the muscle-building switch, and its importance becomes even more pronounced as we age. While all essential amino acids play a role in supporting muscle health, leucine stands out because of its unique ability to directly activate a key muscle-building pathway called mTOR, or mechanistic target of rapamycin. This pathway is the central regulator of muscle protein synthesis, and without sufficient leucine, this process cannot be effectively initiated, regardless of how much total protein is consumed. This makes leucine not just important, but essential for overcoming the age-related phenomenon known as anabolic resistance. Anabolic resistance refers to the reduced sensitivity of aging muscle tissue to the anabolic or muscle-building stimulus of protein intake. What this means is that the same amount and type of protein that work to build or maintain muscle in younger years is no longer as effective after age 65. The body simply does not respond as robustly to protein intake unless that protein contains enough leucine to flip the switch. It's not about how much you eat in total, it's about hitting the leucine threshold required to activate mTOR and initiate the process of muscle repair and growth. Most research suggests that this leucine threshold is roughly 2.5 to 3 grams per meal for older adults, which is higher than what younger individuals need. This is why protein quality matters, especially when designing meals or supplements for older adults. Not all proteins contain the same amount of leucine. For example, whey protein is one of the richest natural sources of leucine, providing approximately 10 to 12% weight by weight. This makes whey an ideal choice for stimulating muscle protein synthesis in older individuals. In contrast, plant-based proteins often have lower leucine content and may require higher total doses to reach the same threshold. Soy, for instance, contains less leucine than whey, and proteins like rice or pea are even lower, meaning they may not be sufficient unless consumed in large amounts or combined with leucine supplementation. The timing of leucine intake is also a crucial factor. Because muscle protein synthesis occurs in pulses, it's important to reach the leucine threshold at each meal, not just once a day. Many older adults tend to consume most of their protein and, by extension, most of their leucine at dinner. Breakfast and lunch are often deficient in both protein and leucine, leading to missed opportunities to stimulate muscle growth throughout the day. Spreading out leucine-rich meals evenly across breakfast, lunch, and dinner ensures the body receives multiple anabolic triggers over a 24-hour period, which is key to slowing or reversing muscle loss. In addition to dietary sources, leucine can also be supplemented directly or through leucine-enriched formulas designed specifically for older populations. These formulations are often used in clinical settings to help elderly patients recover from illness, surgery, or extended bed rest, which are periods when muscle loss can accelerate rapidly. Leucine-enriched supplements have been shown to significantly improve muscle protein synthesis and physical function in older adults, especially when combined with resistance training. These tools can also be helpful for individuals with low appetite or those struggling to consume enough protein through whole foods alone. Beyond its role in muscle metabolism, leucine also influences other systems in the body. It can help regulate blood sugar by enhancing insulin secretion and glucose uptake in muscle tissue, contributing to better metabolic control. This is particularly relevant for older adults who may be dealing with insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes. By supporting muscle mass and improving metabolic function, leucine plays a dual role in promoting both physical and biochemical health. It's also important to consider the context in which leucine is consumed. Leucine works best when paired with resistance training, which sensitizes the muscle tissue and primes it to respond more effectively to anabolic signals. This synergy between nutrition and physical activity is critical. Even the most optimal leucine intake won't produce significant results in the absence of mechanical tension on the muscles. In other words, leucine provides the signal, but training provides the demand. The body only builds what it believes is needed. When you combine adequate leucine intake with consistent resistance exercise, the results are amplified significantly. Leucine's ability to stimulate muscle protein synthesis also makes it an important factor in recovery from illness or injury. When the body is under stress, whether from surgery, infection, or hospitalization, it naturally breaks down muscle to supply amino acids for immune function and repair. Ensuring adequate leucine intake during these periods can help preserve lean mass and accelerate recovery. This is especially vital for older adults, who often lose significant strength and function during extended periods of inactivity or bed rest. Despite its critical role, leucine remains an underappreciated nutrient in the diets of many older individuals. General protein guidelines do not typically emphasize amino acid composition, and food labels rarely provide information about leucine content. As a result, people may believe they are meeting their needs when, in reality, they are not triggering the muscle-building process as effectively as they could be. Addressing this gap requires education, awareness, and intentional dietary planning, especially for those over 65 who are at greater risk of sarcopenia and functional decline. Adding a clinically proven muscle-preserving blend to your morning coffee might sound simple, but it's a powerful strategy rooted in science. For individuals over 65, muscle loss isn't just a passive part of aging, it's a condition that requires active intervention. The early hours of the day present a unique opportunity to influence your body's metabolic direction. After an overnight fast, your body is in a catabolic state, meaning it's breaking down tissue, including muscle, for energy. If nothing is done to counteract this state, the body continues this breakdown until it's interrupted by the right kind of nutrition. That's where your morning coffee comes in, not just as a wake-up ritual, but as a delivery system for key nutrients that can halt muscle degradation and kickstart synthesis. One of the biggest challenges for older adults is getting enough high-quality protein and leucine-rich amino acids early in the day. Breakfast tends to be the most protein-deficient meal, often consisting of toast, cereal, fruit, or just black coffee, none of which provide the muscle-building amino acids required to stimulate protein synthesis. When you combine this with the fact that muscle responsiveness is blunted in older age due to anabolic resistance, it becomes clear why so many people gradually lose strength despite feeling like they're eating enough. The solution is to embed essential nutrients into already established habits, and morning coffee is one of the most consistent daily rituals for most adults. Adding a muscle-preserving blend typically containing whey protein isolate, leucine, creatine, and possibly vitamin D or MEM, beta-hydroxy-beta-methylbutyrate, can fundamentally shift your physiology first thing in the morning. Whey protein isolate is fast-digesting, highly bioavailable, and rich in leucine, the amino acid that initiates muscle protein synthesis. Creatine enhances muscular energy and performance, helping you not only preserve lean mass but perform better during resistance training or daily physical activity. MEM is a metabolite of leucine that has been shown to reduce muscle protein breakdown, especially in older adults during periods of inactivity or stress. Vitamin D supports muscle function and strength, and many older adults are deficient in it without realizing. When these ingredients are consumed together in a blend, they work synergistically to fight sarcopenia. The rapid delivery of amino acids from whey floods the bloodstream, reaching muscle cells quickly and triggering growth pathways. Leucine ensures the mTOR pathway is activated, while creatine supports ATP production, the fuel your muscles need for contraction and recovery. This combination not only halts the catabolic state of fasting but primes your body for muscle maintenance and growth throughout the day. And because it's being delivered in your coffee, a habit that's already deeply ingrained, compliance is easier and more consistent compared to more complex supplementation protocols. There's also a psychological benefit to this strategy. By embedding a health-boosting practice into a comforting morning routine, it becomes part of your identity, not just another chore. When people believe they're starting the day with a proactive step towards strength, longevity, and health, they're more likely to make other supportive decisions like moving their bodies, drinking water, or choosing protein-rich meals later in the day. This creates a feedback loop that reinforces better habits over time. Momentum builds in small moments, and coffee is one of the most powerful daily anchors for behavior change. The convenience factor cannot be overstated. Many older adults struggle with appetite in the morning or have difficulty chewing large volumes of food. A warm, flavored coffee that delivers muscle-supporting nutrients is far easier to consume than a full breakfast. It also eliminates the barrier of preparation time or cleanup. Whether it's a ready-to-mix powder or a pre-packaged blend, it can be made in seconds, making it more likely to be used consistently. Consistency is key in combating sarcopenia, and the best interventions are the ones that people actually stick to. The science supporting this approach is growing. Clinical studies have shown that older adults who consume protein-rich supplements in the morning experience better muscle retention, improved functional strength, and greater mobility compared to those who skip protein at breakfast. This is particularly true when these supplements include leucine and creatine, which have both been independently validated in peer-reviewed research to support muscle mass and function. When incorporated into a daily habit like coffee drinking, the barrier to entry is minimal and the return on investment is substantial. Many functional nutrition products are now being designed specifically with aging populations in mind, offering targeted blends that dissolve easily into coffee or tea without affecting taste. These blends are often low in calories, low in sugar, and free from unnecessary additives, making them suitable for individuals managing weight, diabetes, or digestive sensitivities. With advances in flavor science and solubility, these muscle-supporting blends are now virtually undetectable in your morning cup, allowing you to reap all the benefits without altering your experience. Ultimately, the goal is to shift from a reactive approach responding to frailty once it's already set into a proactive one that uses daily nutrition to build a foundation of strength. Muscle isn't just built in the gym, it's preserved in the kitchen, and more specifically, in those first decisions you make every morning. By incorporating a scientifically validated muscle-preserving blend into your coffee, you're not just enjoying a beverage. You're engaging in a powerful act of self-preservation that aligns with how muscle works, how aging progresses, and how habits form. Strength training combined with strategic nutrition is the ultimate anti-aging formula. While many treatments and interventions claim to slow down the aging process, few have the robust scientific backing that resistance training and targeted dietary practices do. Aging is often thought of as a linear decline in function, but research has repeatedly shown that with the right inputs, this decline can not only be slowed but in many cases reversed. The two most powerful levers available to anyone over 65 are strength training and optimized nutrition. When used together, they don't just preserve muscle, they rebuild it, enhance function, and extend both lifespan and health span. Strength training is the most direct way to communicate to your body that muscle is still needed. The body is governed by a principle known as use it or lose it. If you do not give your muscles a reason to stay, they will begin to atrophy. This is especially true as you age. Sarcopenia, the age-related loss of muscle mass and function, accelerates after the age of 65, and the best way to signal the body to resist this process is through progressive resistance training. This includes movements like squats, lunges, rows, presses, and deadlifts, exercises that mimic everyday actions and build strength where it matters most. Resistance training doesn't need to be extreme to be effective. For older adults, even moderate loads lifted with intention and good form can lead to substantial improvements in muscle mass, bone density, coordination, and confidence. It also stimulates the release of anabolic hormones like growth hormone and testosterone, both of which tend to decline with age. These hormonal responses are essential for maintaining tissue repair, metabolic health, and recovery capacity. Additionally, strength training supports joint health and helps stabilize posture, reducing the risk of falls, fractures, and chronic pain. But resistance training alone is not enough. To translate training into lasting results, the body requires the right building blocks. This is where strategic nutrition becomes essential. Without adequate protein and essential amino acids, especially leucine, the body will not be able to efficiently repair or build muscle, even if the training stimulus is present. This disconnect is one of the reasons many older adults do not see the results they expect from exercise alone. They are sending the right mechanical signals to the body but not providing the nutritional support necessary to complete the process. Strategic nutrition goes beyond just increasing protein intake. It involves understanding the timing, quality, and distribution of protein throughout the day. Older adults benefit most from consuming 25 to 30 grams of high-quality protein at each meal, spaced evenly across the day to maximize muscle protein synthesis. In addition, key supplements like creatine, omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D, and MUB can enhance recovery, reduce inflammation, and support lean tissue preservation. These nutrients work in harmony with the stimulus from resistance training to drive adaptation and resilience. Another critical aspect of this formula is consistency. Strength training needs to be performed regularly, at least 2 to 3 times per week, to maintain its effects. Nutrition needs to support recovery daily, not just after workouts. This means making strength and nourishment part of your lifestyle, not just something you turn to after a health scare. The people who age best are those who make these practices habitual. Their routines are built around movement, protein-rich meals, adequate hydration, and active recovery. These routines form a protective foundation that makes them more resilient to illness, injury, and the stressors of aging. Mental benefits also arise from this combined approach. Resistance training improves cognitive function, reduces symptoms of depression and anxiety, and enhances sleep quality. When paired with proper nutrition, particularly omega-3s and B vitamins, these effects are magnified. The mind and body are deeply interconnected, and as physical vitality improves, so too does mental clarity, emotional regulation, and self-confidence. Older adults who engage in strength training report a greater sense of control over their bodies and lives, which translates into a more positive outlook and increased social engagement. The synergy between strength training and strategic nutrition also supports metabolic flexibility. This refers to the body's ability to efficiently switch between fuel sources like fat and glucose. As people age, this flexibility tends to decline, leading to insulin resistance, fat accumulation, and decreased energy levels. Building muscle through strength training enhances insulin sensitivity, while nutrient-dense meals with adequate protein, fiber, and healthy fats stabilize blood sugar and support consistent energy throughout the day. Together, they create a metabolic environment that is more youthful, efficient, and disease-resistant. Perhaps most importantly, this combined approach helps preserve independence. The number one reason older adults lose their freedom is not illness, it's the loss of strength and mobility. When you can no longer lift yourself out of a chair, climb stairs, or carry your groceries, you become reliant on others. This loss of autonomy is often the beginning of a cascade that leads to reduced activity, increased frailty, and a sharp decline in quality of life. Strength training with strategic nutrition addresses this root cause directly, maintaining not just muscle mass but the function and confidence needed to live fully.